We're going to start by honing in on the story of one child in one classroom. This is a story brought to us by Angie King, who is an elementary school teacher in Vermont, and her experience with one young boy.
I have this one student who came to me last year, and he had kind of been, I don't know, sort of, let me start again. He came to me last year and he had sort of been impacted in a negative way by another school experience. And he had been seen as this child who was difficult and loud and disruptive. And nobody had really had a chance to reach him, and he was feeling negatively about himself. He was feeling negatively about school, and it was impacting every aspect of his life. So his parents decided that it was time for a change, and he headed into my classroom. And I saw immediately this kid who could be seen as disruptive and loud and even sometimes aggressive. And I started to look at when those characteristics came up, and it was almost always when I noticed he wanted to engage with others and have a connection. And I noticed it was also when there was a chance for a leadership role or something that he felt confident to do but didn't know how to show it, and his desire to have a voice in the classroom and how things were handled. And so all of a sudden, I used some of the positive education sort of model to see, what were his core values, where were his personality traits coming out, and how would I shift how I had built this classroom to really meet his needs and use these characteristics in a beautiful light for him. So I started to give him more leadership opportunities. I found ways to have him design the curriculum for the day and introduce things to the class. I also helped model how to make a friend, because in a lot of this, it was just that he really wanted connections with people. And by the end of the year, he was incredibly not just content, he was alive in the classroom. And if you walked in, you saw him. But what was amazing was he was not an overshadowing voice or presence. He was a soloist who also existed within the chorus of our community.
Molly and Lindsay, having just heard about what happened on behalf of Noah and his experience of having been lifted up through um, the practices and principles of positive education, I'm just curious what you think about this in terms of your own children. You're both moms with kids in schools. What is this inspiring in you?
Yeah. I mean, I'm really just so impressed by a teacher like Angie. I think she did such an amazing job leaning into this situation and learning about this student and understanding his perspective. Young people right now are dealing with so much distraction and so many things, and they're really trying to figure out how to show up in the world. And I think there's a lot that is challenging them. And I think sometimes having an adult figure, a teacher, a coach, someone who is getting to know them on a personal level, stop and take a moment to really understand where they are and what strengths they bring and where they want to go in the world. It can have an impact, I think, on that person for the rest of our lives.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more too. As a mother of a 12-year-old and a 9-year-old,
Yeah.
that we know the impacts. We see those. We've seen those, daily. The impacts that our teachers have on our children, not our students, on my children. And they spend more hours with them sometimes in a day than they do with me. And so I love Lindsay's story, because I realize that it's not only that student that's going to be impacted, but Angie's going to be impacted. For the next student and the next student and the next student. And so I can only hope that my students get in the classrooms of the Angies, because it is so impactful in shaping and impacting who they are in this world.
You're really pointing, both of you, toward this sort of upward positive spiral for the child and the teacher and anyone else witnessing this happening, and then back at home again, that gets created when we bring positive education alive in the classroom. So powerful to think of our children being held in this way.